My question is to Roland. Uh, I'm curious about the material of your autonomous buoy.
You're referring to the hull?
Uh, the exo material,
Oh,
the
it's made of aluminum.
aluminum.
Yeah.
So was there? I mean, how did you manage the biofouling on the material? I mean, is there that something you can share with?
So what I'd like to say about this, I mean, the choice of material was how can we get it, like many of them manufactured at low cost. We looked into plastic, and it was complicated, very expensive. So we went for, it's not like we specifically chose aluminum. So it was just a default choice by a contractor in China that was able to make it like in large quantities. It's pretty heavy because it's quite thick. It's probably not the best choice. So we're looking into other options right now. So in terms of biofouling, now to answer your question specifically, we went to St. John's Island only once. And not for a long time, unfortunately. I won't be able to comment on that.
It was something that you didn't face?
No, that's something we should consider, definitely. Yeah.
But Dr. Pablo, I mean, is there any, apart from the material themselves, was there any coating stuff that you managed to do on?
No, just silicones are by their nature resilient to biofouling. Okay. And actually, Roland and I are going to collaborate in this long-term study, so.
All right, okay.
It just so happens I work on biofouling, and so silicon is actually a pretty decent material. So like most of the shipping now is using this, what we call non-stick surfaces. Most of them are silicon coatings, right? So it's just a case of maintaining and not leaving it in the water static for too long.
Actually related, I came across something. So basically, when we install underwater cameras, around underwater cameras, when there is certain movement in the water itself, there was no biofouling that was found. I mean, is there some study related to marine life behavior that somehow biofouling doesn't happen or something towards that? I'm not sure if I'm
not aware of it, but it makes sense, right? Biofouling is essentially you have a fauna, right, that is growing in a surface. So if the surface moves, right, so it's going to disturb the growth of anything on it. So it cannot. It helps, right? It doesn't hurt if the surface is moving.
All right. Okay. Thanks.
Other questions?
First of all, I'm a co-PI from NTU with Eric, and I would like to thank the support of CENSAM. Has been a really pleasure to work in the center. And I think it's also that we are seeing our students being employed, finding jobs and so on, so it's great. Actually, my question is to Dr. Pablo. I've been also playing around with this soft material in the lab, using BDMS and changing density by using oil, mixing with oil, glycerin, and so on, and monitoring their property over time using rheometer. And typically, I think that they change over time. So, so with your intention of using this soft robot for a long term, for a long period of time, how do you guarantee that their property will not change?
Yeah, that's a good question. At the moment, we don't have a good answer for that. It's true that over time, the materials would soften up a little bit. Especially if they're immersed in water, if you leave them outside, they'll harden up a little bit. So long as the variations are within a certain range, we think we can cope with some of those with control, right? Of course, the variations in material properties are going to affect some of the kinematics, the motions that we can achieve. So if the variations are within a certain healthy range, we believe we could still contain those using control. If they're larger than that, yes, it's a serious problem, and we're going to have to look into extra chemistry that we can develop for the materials.
Hi. So first of all, Sarita, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your talk, and that sets a fantastic context, I think, for the marine research that we had heard about earlier. And within that context, you had showed this picture of just how busy Singapore is in the marine space. And I was wondering, within that context, Pablo and Roland, I mean, what does that actually mean for you guys? Because you do your work in reservoirs, to show these distributed swarms working, and more controlled systems. Is this going to be a problem for implementing these kind of heterogeneous swarms out in the busy coastal environment? And I mean, will they need to have sensors for seeing if ships are coming, or what does that mean for you guys?
I think that's why this new lab is very attractive to us, because it's somewhat of a sheltered, real marine environment, and we are trying to get funding from NRF in this regard. So,
well, I got permission for you to use the lagoon.
Actually, from my perspective, we just want to add to the business of the port, right? So, like many swarming agents, that would be like just busier. So, just without kidding, the systems we're looking at are very small. So this is not a massive cargo, hitting into a battleship. It's so small that if you have a ship passing by, it will be moved away. So the chances for collision, I think, are limited in a sense. Now, when we had some initial contacts with MPA, the Maritime Port Authority of Singapore, and they are very concerned. Having objects like this, they look like a mine, right? So they're just worried, like. Think about all these people coming from all over the world, and then they come to the waters of Singapore, and they see all of these, buoys. They wouldn't know that it's something just for research purposes. Trying to make a collision avoidance system that is, really active in responding to the I think it's a challenge. Hard to comment on this right now, but I think just a passive repulsion is going to happen, just pure hydrodynamics in a sense. Yeah.
I think that it also presents, I call it a technological challenge for to work within. One of the key, I think, MPA has been talking about. Now we talk about smart nation using sensors, robotics to take over many of these dangerous tasks. Like monitoring the port and things like that. Having said that, so in that context, so far MPA has mostly been looking at aerial sensors, because underwater robotics hasn't reached there yet. But that is one domain where, for example, divers. There have been so many dive accidents, but divers have to go into the water to do a lot of these things. And so there is actually within the Maritime Port Authority a huge interest to fund marine robotics and sensors.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Somehow the MPA recognizes the need to have many platforms doing something. And their perspective is they're so worried about collision that they just want to be above the ships. Now, the air in Singapore is pretty busy as well. So when you look at the map of where you can fly a drone, it's almost like the entire Singapore is a no-fly zone. So it's really busy in 3 dimensions, underwater, the surface of water and in the air. I think we have to make an effort in providing the assurance that the system is not going to be a danger, and they might be interested. There are many things. They are limited right now in terms of getting information about what's going on, because the using cameras from the shore is just impossible. The view is blocked. They want to measure pollution in the waters, for instance, to catch some of the polluters, and they are not able to do it. The flying drones are too limited. The payload they can carry is too limited. You need to recharge them all the time. So it's an attractive solution, but it's probably not as effective as it seems. Yeah.
And I think where they are using, even if one of those things got crashed by a ship, it's not as bad as a person.
Or 7.
Yeah,
Just on the subject of collision avoidance, I spent a little time in Hanoi recently, and everybody and their cousin has a motor scooter, and they have huge traffic densities, and they seem to be able to merge very well. They seem to be able to get through intersections that are uncontrolled. You've referred to looking at birds flocking. Have you looked at human beings flocking?
So I know we could continue for quite a while because we have such excellent speakers, but I think the thermal comfort of the food is deteriorating as we speak. So with that, maybe we should break and we can continue informally over lunch. And let's thank
crowd,
again.
Let's
yeah.
crowd at the.
Yeah, let's thank again all the speakers, and please do intelligent swarming as you go to the food line. Yeah, thank you.